This is bonded bronze. It's 80% bronze powder and 20% resin. And so when you mix the bronze powder with the resin and you pour it in the mold, all the bronze powder falls to the surface. I'm Jeff Hall. I'm a sculptor, and we're here in my studio about an hour outside of Washington, D.C. It's very country. We moved here in '85 to an abandoned farm, and the idea at the time, because I had a lot of art school friends from the Maryland Institute College of Art, that's where I graduated in Baltimore. And we moved out here, we're going to start an art commune. And the place needed a lot of work. We had to strip this barn, which was built 100 years ago. From there, all my friends kind of dispersed. They all went their own ways, and so I was just here making art by myself. Some sculptures just develop, you start them, and as you live with it, you add to it, and it changes just from life. You know, as you go through life, you see different things, and then with this in mind, you want to apply that part of your experience in life to the piece. I started with this, you know, seeing a guy come out of the water, and I thought the splash was great. So I've gotten that far. Exactly what he's doing, I'm not sure yet, but it'll come to me. I started out as an airbrush artist, and then when I went to school, I started doing more woodworking there. I took those, which is working 3D, and I found that to be a challenge and much more interesting. And when I would do wood projects, I'd build a little clay model. And then eventually I decided that I liked the clay better than working with the wood. And I slowly evolved from that into sculpting the figure, which I really took off. I'm Frederick Hart. He's a well-known sculptor. He did the facade at the National Cathedral, and he did the Vietnam soldiers. And I worked with him for 11 years and really developed sculpting the figure with him. Fabrication from scratch, I probably started that 5 years ago. Virginia Beach put out a national call for a skate park sculpture, and this was the winning design. Won this from a national competition. This is the model for the skate park piece. The bottom will be lit, so light will come through here. That's what the yellow part is. And then this is the skate park. Skaters doing various tricks on skateboards, bikes, and so this will be mounted on top of this piece here. And so it will look like this. This is standard steel, cold rolled steel. Took me about 7 days to cut all these squigglies out. So this part is finished and painted, and I'm still working on the base. When I finish one project, I feel so fired up. It's very exciting and gratifying, and it just makes me want to start the next project. This piece is part of the City of Angels series. It's classically sculpted. Do the layers of stucco over brick. It mimics different parts of human emotion, or the strength of someone underneath their exterior. It also shows part of my process of building an armature, which would be the brick, and then laying over clay to sculpt a piece. Clay has gone through some evolution. The clay I work with a lot is an oil-based clay. It doesn't dry out, and they always used a sulfur in that. And the sulfur on your hands, if you rubbed your eyes, your eye would burn. It was also really infectious. If you had the tiniest cut, it would infect that cut really easily. And so, but it had a really nice, the sulfur made it really creamy and really nice to work with. And the new clays without sulfur are kind of crumbly, and they're just, you have to warm them up more to get them to be creamy. I finally found one that had more wax in it and no sulfur. So it makes mold making easier. The rubber doesn't stick to the clay as much. Now this is my clay box. It warms the clay, so when I come out in the studio it's ready to go. And you need the warm clay to make it nice and pliable. A lot of my pieces, they are classical figure work, and you're trying to bring out an emotion there, which is mostly through body language. This is one of my favorite pieces that I've created. It's a piece about man's balance with nature. He is balanced on the world. The elements are swirling up around him. There's fish that come up representing the water, and they turn into birds representing the air. He has a hoop, trying to get the elements to jump through the hoop and control the uncontrollable. It's about a 20-year project. Glad to see it finally realized to this scale. This is a replica of a 7-foot bronze that is of Martin Luther King, a civil rights activist. The bronze piece is in Aurora, Colorado at the Martin Luther King Library, just outside of Denver. A real interesting part of doing public work is learning about various people and finding out more about them and what they did. There's one, I have one in Washington, D.C. It's of President Kemal Ataturk. He was the first president of Turkey. I was very proud to get this as my first commission that I won through a competition. It's the only piece on U.S. soil, and there are thousands of sculptures of him all around the world. My brother said, "You're always so serious with your art." And so I thought, well, I'll create something more amusing. And it was sculpted partly from a reference from George Burns, where he's a comedian, a well-known comedian. He said, "I've been in the business 80 years. And so I thought of doing a jester, an older jester, with all the wrinkles in his face from all the life of laughing. This is a model of Stanley Calkins. Him and Arthur Godfrey started the Leesburg Airport in Leesburg, Virginia. He's down in Leesburg on Main Street sitting on a bench, and he gets a lot of attention. A lot of people sitting, taking pictures with him. So it's really enjoyable to see people with your work, standing around talking about it, and knowing that it will continue long after I'm gone.